and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be my June wind down. I have a fair few books, not as many as last time, so hopefully this one I don't have to do a part 2. So of course I'm gonna have some wine. Today we are going to have the Peace, Love and Bubbles, and this is from Ruby Blues Winery. They're in Naramata, BC. They have one of my favorite wines, which is the red stiletto, and they also have a really good white stiletto. If you can, look them up and buy some wine at your local store. If you're in BC, if you're international or in a different province, you might have to do it online. So first off, we have to do our land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Nutchellett people, traditional custodian of the land on which we are filming today, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Thank you, and let's get started. So first off, I have to open my bottle. Oh boy, is this gonna go everywhere? Spin out a little bit in the heat. Oh my goodness, I don't want it to go everywhere. Okay, let's do this quick and get my glass underneath. Okay, good. So I love this little color, especially for the summer. Nice healthy serving. That's fresh, bubbly, not too sweet. It'll do for this wind down. First off, we will start with Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. So this one was there's a lot of twists. The premise is this girl, all of a sudden she wakes up and she's 1,000 years past her cryogenic schedule wake up. So she's only supposed to be in cryo for 100 years and wake up on a new colony, and there are twists. And she wakes up, of course, 1,000 years later. She gets paired up with a guy that he's trying to use her to get back to the main city. And it just goes on from there. So I read this along with the audiobook, and the language has shifted. So of course you can imagine over 1,000 years how the English language would have evolved. It gave me a little bit of, oh, what's that book? Gave me a little bit of vibes of the 1984 by George Orwell. The language, how it just, instead of having multiple different variations of that word, is just one word and it kind of means everything. And kind of the sentences are just smushed down so you don't have the little breakup words. It was very interesting, and I'm glad I did it on audiobook because it was nice to hear it. And yeah, I can't tell you much more because of all the kind of little twists. It would kind of give them away. I enjoyed this book. I kind of gave it a, thumbs up, thumbs down, like a little so-so. And this was the Owl Crate edition. So you have this gold edging. Like, oh yeah, I love me some sprayed edges. So yeah, it was kind of interesting. There is a sequel out. Will I pick it up? Maybe, maybe not. But all in all, it was a good ride, a bit sci-fi and that kind of thing. So there you go. Next up, The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Again, this is the Owl Crate exclusive edition, and it has beautiful, look at that, right? Yeah, foiled, very cool. Okay, so this one was a bit there's stuff that goes down in this book and you're like, holy shit, right? So the premise is this girl, she's coming to her coming of age ceremony. She's a bit of an outcast in her village due to her mother being from a different distant village, and so it kind of puts her kind of like on the outskirts, a little bit ostracized. And so all she wants is to be able to be part of this community. And at your coming of age ceremony, what they do is the local priest will cut you, and if you bleed red, then you're all good, you're part of the community, and you put in your, you know, very misogynistic, patriarchal, that kind of thing, and you're put in your place, married, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, her blood runs gold, and that is a sign of a demon, bad, and her father is tasked with the unfortunate thing of having to kill her because he's like, this is a demon, all that kind of stuff. Little beknownst is that her golden blood is profitable, so she is kept as a prisoner in the local church, and she is bled, and her blood is being sold off. And they also, with these gilded ones, is they can't die. So not very spoilery, but like it happens in the first chapter that she gets beheaded. Like her head is off her body, but her body and her head starts growing tendrils towards each other to reattach her head on her body. Like, this is weird. And so with the gilded ones, they have a final death. So that can be by drowning, it could be by beheading, it could be by bloodletting, etc., etc., etc. And so these priests, of course, can't find her final death, but they're okay with it because they could just use her blood. And then a kind of warrior woman arrives and saves her and takes her away to be in a warrior training guild. And there's a little bit of twists and turns and found family and kind of thing. And so she's able to find her place and kind of her trials and tribulations. So this one, I enjoyed it as well. Like, it was very, I love the world, very unique. And then of course there's like badass women getting back to the oppressive, misogynistic patriarchy. So that was very enjoyable. I believe I still gave it kind of like a so-so, a thumbs up, thumbs down. Like, it wasn't one of my favorites, but I did enjoy it. There is, I believe, a sequel coming out because it kind of leaves off and you're like, I want to know more. So yeah, I would suggest it. It was a fun ride, and it was kind of like a, I love the attitude of like stick to the man kind of thing. So yeah, check it out. Wine break. My next physical read is Beach Read by Emily Henry. So this one was kind of like for my adult read, right? It's stepping away from YA for a little bit. Is this gonna? I don't think so. Will it stay? I think so. Okay. So this one, the premise is you have two rival authors. They're both with writer's block. They end up being neighbors at a little town that I want to go to this little town. It sounds so adorable. And so it's a second chance romance. There's definitely some family drama and trauma. And what else did I put on it? It was a bit like, you know, a little steamy. Not as much as I would like, but you know, everyone has their kind of, I would say, smut tolerance at different levels. I can handle a bit. And I'm not used to reading adult contemporary fiction, so I was pleasantly surprised, and this popped up on so many of my YouTubers like summer read lists and that kind of thing. So I think, I don't know, usually I don't rate these, but I kind of did it as like it was a good distraction, a good read. Yeah, like I said, the little beach town where these people live and have their little cottages, like, yes please, I can live there. And there's a cute little like bookstore coffee shop combo that, you know, maybe I would love to have when I retire, or as like my after retirement plan, that's what I'm gonna do. But apparently the coffee is terrible, so I would definitely not do that. But it was a cute little setting. So I enjoyed it. It's a good beach read. Bring it with you in the summer, flip through, and have a good time. Now, we talked about my tolerance for steam. This one is getting up there. Like, there's some good scenes in this one. So this is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is the second one in the Brown Sister trilogy. You started the first one with Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And you have Take a Hint, Dani Brown. And then the third one, it just came out. So in this book, they have the first two chapters. So now I just have to go and pick it up. I know that I got the audiobook, so I will read that while I'm at work. And sorry, I didn't say the author, which is Talia Hibbert. So this is set in England, and I just love the British humor where it's like cut dry, like no holds bar. Like, I laughed out loud so many times. So the premise is this PhD candidate. She's teaching a class in the university in one of the buildings that's kind of like the dilapidated building. That building has a security guard, and there's a because it's also like the medical student building, so there's like cadavers and lots of like gases and liquids and all that kind of stuff. So they are doing a drill that in case there's a gas leak or whatever chemical spill, on how, you know, evacuating the building. And Dani Brown, she's so kind of off in her head that she forgot that it was the drill, and she ends up in the elevator and the drill goes off and she's stuck in there, and the security guard has, you know, a secret crush on her, and he goes and like rescues her and like carries her out in his arms. It gets captured, sent around on Twitter, and all of a sudden it's like big blow up Twitter, like it's Dr. Rug Bay is the hashtag that goes viral. And so they kind of see like as a mutual benefit of like fake dating, because everyone's like kind of totally shipped them together, and so he's like, okay, we'll you know, follow this up with the, and then her kind of counter offer is, I'm just looking for a fuck buddy, friends with benefits, and so it goes from there, and you know where it's gonna lead to, and that, you know, the scene where they finally get together. I'm like, oh, yes, please. So this one, I gave it like total like double thumbs up. I love the humor and the shenanigans, and it's like, yeah, the banter is amazing. So I highly recommend picking up the first one, this one, and then continuing on with the third one. So good times. So that's all my physical books, and let's go on to my audiobooks. So this month, for the month of June, was Indigenous Peoples History Month here in Canada. So I tried to focus a lot on books by Indigenous author, Indigenous stories, that kind of thing. I will be doing a second video on kind of more focused on all the different social medias and books and authors and stuff like that, just to bring education and light to Indigenous voices and creators. I'm sure it has made international headlines, but at the end of May, there were 215 bodies of children found on a residential school property, and it has just escalated from there. Now we're up to like 1,500 unmarked graves of children. So I don't want to be a downer on this video, but that will be a second video and kind of thing like that. So a lot of my books on audio was focused on Indigenous creators. So, and other things as well too. So it wasn't fully focused on that. But so the first one my first audiobook was Summoned to 13th Grave. This is the 13th and final book in the Charlie Davidson series by Darynda Jones. So I have talked about this series of books before. It's detective, paranormal, steamy, it's hilarious. Like Charlie Davidson, like, please, like, she needs to be, like, this needs to be a movie, and this like sassy character would be awesome. So since it's the conclusion of the series, there's not much else I can elaborate on, but if you read the first one, you find out that Charlie Davidson is a private eye, so she, detective on murders and missing things, but she is also the Grim Reaper, so any souls that haven't passed on will find her and they can pass through her, and she sees all their life and things like that. But it also helps because she can see spirits, so it helps her in her mystery solving. She can talk to ghosts and that kind of thing, and there's a whole like slew of characters, supporting characters for her that I enjoyed a lot. So this book wasn't my favorite in this series, but it gave a very good conclusion. I cried at the end because it's so sad, and good though. It's like it ends off, everything's tied up nicely, and it was a great conclusion to a series that I loved. And now it's over, so I'm gonna have to try and find a new detective series to read. So I would highly recommend this series, and it was a fun ride. I'm a little sad that it's over. Oop. Wine break, wine break. Bubbles. Okay. The next one, now it's for my kind of Indigenous authors. The next couple one is all Indigenous. So I have The Barren Ground by David Alexander Robertson. So this is a middle grade story. It was featured in the Owl Crate Junior box earlier this year, I want to say, or late last year. If you go onto their YouTube page, they do an Owl Babble where they interview the author and have kind of discussion on the book. I would highly recommend seeing this video so you get kind of the background on the book and kind of the perspective of the author and things like that. So it is a twist on the Narnia, like the witch, the Lion, and the Wardrobe, where these two kids end up going through a portal to a different world. It has a discussion on foster care, kind of a perceived white saviorism, and it's has a lot of Cree folklore. So it kind of describes how the Big Dipper, which is the Ursa Major, I think is the celestial name for it. So like the Big Dipper, which is like the big bear, how it came to be, and that kind of thing. I loved it. It had great discussion points, especially for kind of that middle grade, middle school age child, where if you're trying to open up the discussion about residential school, the 60s scoop. These are all things that you should look up, Google it. So it opens up these discussions to younger children, and it makes it easy to talk about and palatable, I would say, right? Like, so, and you know, I learned I guess the Cree word was qu'est-ce que c'est tutasu, and qu'est-ce que c'est tutasu means don't forget who you are. So that's kind of an underlying message in this book. And I mean, I love this book. I'm gonna try and push it to my children. And it was an audiobook, so it was kind of nice to hear the Cree words spoken, because sometimes I know with a lot of people it's hard to read the phonetics or for Indigenous languages, so sometimes it's easy to, when you see it and also hear it, it kind of sticks in your mind. So again, great, pick it up. Even as an adult, I enjoyed this book, especially if you grew up with Narnia. So next one was Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead. So this was a book in one of the finalists for the Canada Reads. This one is for adults. There's a lot of adult content in here. Of course, there's trauma, abuse, heavily on the sexual content, that kind of thing. So just kind of look up some of the trigger warnings and kind of the subject matter on this book. But this one, like, and it's also, I believe, being adapted into a movie. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because the way that the story is told is not linear and it's not dual perspective. So I like to kind of liken it to a flower kind of thing. So you have the stem as, like, you know, the story that's going to the flower, which is like the conclusion of the whole book. But as the story goes, it goes off into kind of these like leaf kind of cyclical stories. So, you know, as you're going up into the story, oh, you got a little side story, but then it comes back to relate to what it is, you know, continuing on the stem, and then there's another story and that kind of thing. And it all makes it, you know, to give perspective on who this person is, and, you know, why going back to their town is kind of like a journey, because they left and now they have to go back kind of thing. So I find it quite interesting, and it was a nice way of reading a story. So it'll be interesting to see what it will be as a movie and how they're gonna do these like little stories and that kind of thing. So look it up, pick it up. Joshua Whitehead is quite prolific in his writing, so yeah, I would recommend looking into it. And it's also has a Two-Spirit as the main character. So again, with June, it was also Pride Month, so I kind of tried to combine both of these you know, main themes for June into the books as well. So the next one was a non-fiction book. I don't read a lot of non-fiction, but this one was well worth it, and I would highly recommend picking it up. And it is Peace and Good Order: The Case for Indigenous Justice in Canada by Harold R. Johnson. So this one was very eye-opening. I would kind of put it similar to the new Jim Crow down in the States in regards to Black American incarceration, and, you know, how that related and how that ended up being. So this one relates to Canadian Indigenous incarceration in Canada. And this gentleman was a Harvard educated lawyer. So he wasn't messing around, and it's kind of his journey as to when he started as a brand new lawyer and then until he retired, and how the system is really against Indigenous people and how he feels guilty for kind of perpetuating at the beginning of his career that justice and or injustice to the Indigenous community, and then how he kind of transitioned and tried to make it better. And there was a really good, instead of incarcerating people, give them a chance to, how did he put it? To redeem themselves through voluntarism, and to be able to like talk about their story and accountability, because putting them in jails does nothing. It doesn't rehabilitate them at all. And it's just going to be a perpetual cycle of in and out of jails and that kind of thing. So I highly recommend reading this book. It's very short, so pick it up from your library and you could probably read it in a couple days, maybe in a sitting if you're a fast reader. So again, pick it up. So next one was Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. Again, this would be kind of like, yeah, I guess YA, like barely, like I would say like just past middle grade, but YA. And it's a parallel world. So it's our world, but you have kind of spirits that live with us, like animal spirits and that kind of thing. It's a bit of like murder mystery, detective. I can't remember what Indigenous background the main character is from, but she's able to call up departed spirits to help, that kind of thing. So I enjoyed this book. It was a good read, and I love mystery and like detective and revenge stories and that kind of thing. And so this book was a fun read, and it just yeah, I don't know what else much to say because it is mystery, so it's like you can't really give away much, but look it up and borrow it from your library or purchase it. If you like kind of that detective, like whodunit, revenge, a little bit of the paranormal going on with it, and it was very enjoyable, and they're always like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh my god, I hate those people, and kind of thing like that. And it gives a good discussion and about privilege and white privilege versus Indigenous lives and that kind of thing. So pick it up. Okay, so my last one, it was a detective story, and I thought it was from an Indigenous author, but it's not. It's a two people, husband and wife, and it's called Coyote Alibi, the Naomi Many Mules book number 1 by Jenna Burgess and her husband. So this one is Navajo, and it's a detective story, and it brings a bit of like cultural beliefs in this murder mystery. Nice little twist at the end to kind of, figure it out. But it's a little town. A murder happens of a furniture seller, and of course, in any of these kinds of situations, the partners always blame first, and then a little lawyer's office that kind of normally does just property and wills and that kind of thing, they get involved as the criminal lawyer, and that kind of thing. So again, it was a nice little who done it, how, like, let's follow the clues and that kind of thing. And again, there's a little bit of discussion on Indigenous relationships with law enforcement, in small communities and that kind of thing. So it was a great little thing. I did like it, I rated it kind of as a so-so. It wasn't quite what I expected. Could have been a little bit more in depth, but it was still an enjoyable read. So now we come into the last book. So my last book was just a nice romance, YA. Yeah, romance YA, and it's Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. So I really like Marissa Meyer. She's done some great series. We have the Renegade series. Look it up. They're quite fun. So this one was so cute. It kind of made me reminisce about my teenage years and that kind of thing. So it's a not like, I don't like saying enemies to lovers, but it's like animosity to lovers kind of thing. And you know, it's so cute, and I'm like and it's just some high schoolers that it's the end of their year. They're in biology class. You know, it's you know, what the girl, she's like a go-getter, like straight A's only. You know, control freak, perfectionist, and then her lab partner is just like, you know, she sees him as like dead weight, like he doesn't care about anything, you know, and they present their final project and they get a C, and she is just devastated. She's like, I can't have this on my GPA, and tries to convince him to like redo the project, or she's like, I'm gonna do it by myself and I'm gonna get a better grade. And you know, you find out that his mother runs the local marine rescue center. And then she finds this out. She's like, oh, okay. And then, so little things like that. And she has like a head for business and, you know, that kind of thing. And she's such like a go-getter, and her heart's in the right place. And then, you know, it's a miscommunication as to why he was the way he was, and then she finds that out, and then she's like, oh, okay, you know, so, and then a little romance kind of evolves from there, and it involves a storm, and they're by themselves at the rescue center, so, you know what's gonna happen. It's YA, so it only goes so far. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It was light. There's good banter, and you know, everything ends up, you know, happy ending and that kind of thing. So it's quite enjoyable. As you can tell by the title, Instant Karma. There's a little like twist there where the main character all of a sudden is able to dish out instant karma for bad things and good things. So that was kind of fun. Through kind of middle to end, it kind of veered off of that a little bit. So, you know, when your book is titled Instant Karma and you kind of get away from that plot line, is a bit like, okay. But then it comes back near the end and finishes it up that way. But all in all, it was a fun read. And that is my June wind down. Let me know, which one have you read this month? Which one do you want to pick up now? Did you read this? Did you like it? Not like it? That kind of thing. And as always, please like this video, subscribe if you want to see more of my content, click that bell icon, and we'll see you next video. Bye!